Picture yourself in a Tehran market surrounded by the aroma of spices and bread, the air thick with the sounds of bargaining and laughter. The market is alive, vibrant, and full of color, an ancient tradition that has survived centuries. But beneath the surface, there's a tension you can almost taste. There's a sense of urgency in every step, every transaction. Shoppers move quickly, eyes darting from stall to stall, hoping to beat the next price hike. Prices change so fast that what you could afford this morning might be out of reach by afternoon. Vendors scramble to update handwritten signs, sometimes several times a day, as the value of money slips through their fingers. The cash in your pocket shrinks in value almost hourly. What felt like enough for a week's groceries yesterday might barely cover a loaf of bread today. This is hyperinflation. Your money melts away before your eyes, dissolving with every tick of the clock. It's a daily race against time, and the finish line keeps moving further away. Salaries barely move, but the cost of basics like bread and oil soars. Even the most essential items become harder to afford, and every trip to the store is a reminder of how quickly things can change. Life savings evaporate, and families are forced to make impossible choices, recalculating what they can afford day by day. Parents skip meals so their children can eat, and dreams of a better future are put on hold. In the last decade, the rial has lost over 90% of its value against the dollar. The numbers on exchange boards climb higher and higher, a constant reminder of lost stability. A few years ago, a dollar got you 40,000 rials. Now it's over 500,000. The currency's collapse is not just a statistic, it's a daily reality for millions. Imported goods are now luxuries, shortages are common, and prices spiral in a vicious cycle. Shelves that once held foreign products now stand empty, and people line up for hours hoping to find what they need. How do you plan for the future when you can't predict next week's grocery bill? Every family faces uncertainty, forced to make tough decisions about what to buy and what to sacrifice. This isn't just an economic crisis. It's a psychological one, eroding hope and trust. Anxiety and frustration simmer beneath the surface as people wonder how much longer they can endure. But it wasn't always like this. Tehran was once a city of optimism and opportunity, where families could dream and plan for the future. Now those memories feel distant as the city grapples with a crisis that touches every life. In the 1970s, Iran was a rising star in the Middle East, admired for its rapid progress and modern outlook. The country was undergoing a dramatic transformation, with new buildings and bustling streets reflecting a sense of hope and ambition. Tehran, the capital, was at the heart of this change, its skyline dotted with modern architecture and lively neighborhoods. Oil money fueled rapid modernization, and Tehran was a cosmopolitan hub. Cafes, nightclubs, and restaurants buzzed with energy, and people from around the world visited the city. The oil boom brought unprecedented wealth, funding new infrastructure, schools, and hospitals, and giving Iranians a taste of global culture. The middle class grew, incomes rose, and the future looked bright. Shopping centers filled with the latest fashions and new cars lined the streets. For many, it felt like anything was possible, and the promise of a better tomorrow seemed within reach. The currency was stable, and opportunity seemed endless. People found good jobs, and the economy was strong. There was a sense of security, and families could plan for the future with confidence. Families bought homes, started businesses, and believed their children would have it even better. Parks were filled with laughter, and small businesses thrived. The dream of upward mobility was alive and well, and hope was everywhere. That optimism is now a distant memory. For many, the vibrant images of the past are bittersweet reminders of what once was and what has been lost over the decades. Today, the average Iranian is poorer than their grandparents were 50 years ago. Many families now struggle to make ends meet, living in smaller homes and facing daily hardships that would have been unthinkable back then. The infrastructure of the past is crumbling, and industries are struggling to survive. Once busy factories now stand abandoned, and roads and public spaces show the wear of years of neglect. The dream of a comfortable life has been replaced by a daily struggle for survival. Many Iranians face rising prices, shortages, and uncertainty about the future. This isn't nostalgia, it's a stark reversal of fortune. The contrast between past prosperity and present hardship is impossible to ignore. The prosperity and global connections of the 1970s have vanished. International visitors are rare, and many businesses have closed their doors. Understanding this collapse is key to grasping the frustration Iranians feel today, as they look back at a time when hope was abundant and the future seemed limitless. How did Iran fall so far? It started with the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The revolution severed ties with the West and upended the economy. Then came the devastating Iran-Iraq War, draining resources and destroying infrastructure. Billions were spent on war instead of rebuilding the economy. Meanwhile, the population exploded, putting even more strain on jobs and services. The battered economy couldn't keep up with the growing number of young people. The regime shifted focus from development to survival. War, revolution, and a population boom created a perfect storm. Each factor alone was a challenge. Together, they set the stage for decades of crisis. This is the unstable foundation of Iran's current economic misery. If revolution and war were the first blows, sanctions have been the slow chokehold. Over the years, these restrictions have tightened, squeezing the Iranian economy in ways that touch every aspect of daily life. For ordinary Iranians, the effects are not just numbers on a chart. They're felt in the price of bread, the cost of medicine, and the uncertainty of tomorrow. Led by the U.S., sanctions isolate Iran from global trade and finance, especially after the 2018 Maximum Pressure campaign. This campaign didn't just target government elites, it rippled through every layer of society, making it harder for businesses to operate and for families to plan for the future. Oil exports, Iran's economic lifeline, plummeted, and access to foreign currency dried up. With fewer buyers for its oil, Iran lost billions in revenue, leaving the government scrambling to fund basic services and pay public workers. Even humanitarian goods became hard to import as banks feared U.S. penalties. Essential medicines and medical equipment were delayed or blocked, putting lives at risk and straining an already fragile healthcare system. The impact was immediate. Oil revenues crashed, the rial collapsed, and shortages worsened. Prices soared and many businesses shuttered, unable to cope with the new reality. The government tried to find workarounds, but they're risky and inefficient. Smuggling and black markets flourished, but these are no substitute for open trade, and they often fuel corruption and crime. Sanctions amplify every other problem. They worsen inflation, stifle the private sector, and give the government an external scapegoat. Small businesses, once the backbone of the economy, now struggle to survive as costs rise and customers disappear. They make it nearly impossible for Iran to stabilize its currency or pay for imports. Everyday goods, from electronics to food, become scarce or unaffordable, deepening the hardship for millions. Sanctions don't exist in a vacuum. They magnify mismanagement and corruption. With fewer resources and more pressure, government inefficiency becomes even more damaging and public frustration grows. While the government is at fault, sanctions are a key part of the story. They shape the choices leaders make and the hardships people endure, fueling both anger and despair. Being cut off from the world has crippled Iran's economy. Factories close, jobs vanish, and hope fades for a better future. The result is a cycle of crisis with no easy escape. Each new round of sanctions deepens the spiral, making recovery harder and the path forward more uncertain. Sanctions are the amplifier of Iran's economic pain, turning every challenge into a crisis and every setback into a struggle for survival. How can a country so rich in oil be so poor? It's the resource curse. Oil brings easy money, but it breeds dependency and discourages real economic growth. When oil prices are high, the government spends freely. When prices crash or sanctions hit, the economy collapses. Instead of investing oil wealth to diversify, Iran spent it, leaving other sectors underdeveloped. Oil money means the government doesn't rely on taxes, so it's less accountable to the people. This fuels inefficiency and corruption, disconnecting rulers from the ruled. Unlike Gulf neighbors who diversified, Iran's economy remains hollow. When oil money dries up, there's nothing to fall back on. For most Iranians, inflation is the most painful symptom of economic decay. The rial's collapse isn't just a statistic, it's a daily disaster. Official inflation hovers around 50%, but real prices for essentials are often much higher. The government's solution: print more money, which only makes things worse. More rials in circulation means each one is worth less. People rush to convert their savings into dollars, gold, or goods, accelerating the spiral. Hyperinflation wipes out savings, makes planning impossible, and hits the poor and middle class hardest. Retirement becomes terrifying, and dreams like home ownership fade away. Businesses can't set prices or invest. Inflation is a massive, ongoing transfer of wealth from ordinary people. It's the silent thief that steals the future. Iran's youth are highly educated, but the job market is a wasteland. Unemployment is high even for university graduates. Talented engineers, doctors, and artists are forced into menial jobs or unemployment. For women, the situation is even worse. Despite high education rates, workforce participation is abysmally low. This is brain waste on a national scale. Many of the best and brightest see emigration as their only option. Nearly half of young Iranians would leave if they could. The country is exporting its future, hollowing itself out. It's a tragedy of wasted potential. Iran's economy is dominated by shadowy semi-state entities, bonyads, and the Revolutionary Guard's conglomerates. These groups control vast sectors, win no-bid contracts, and are exempt from taxes. Genuine private businesses are crowded out, and corruption thrives. Power is concentrated in unelected hands, making reform nearly impossible. The political system prioritizes ideology and regime security over sound economic management. Elected officials have little real power. Ultimate authority lies with unelected bodies. This leads to policy paralysis and wild swings, making long-term planning impossible. The economy is hostage to a system resistant to real reform. Iran's crisis is a web of interconnected failures: sanctions, oil dependency, inflation, wasted talent, and corruption. Fixing it would require painful choices: resolving the standoff with the West, slashing subsidies, and dismantling entrenched power structures. But the regime fears the political cost of real reform. Sanctions relief is needed, but the concessions required are politically toxic. Internally, radical reforms would mean confronting the most powerful interests. The regime's priority is survival, not prosperity. So Iran lurches from crisis to crisis, blaming outsiders while refusing to change. For ordinary Iranians, there's no easy answer, just a long wait for a breakthrough that may never come.